Attention, Lane Lambert. Yeah, it's a trend. The Islanders are giving up far too many third period leads. We'll talk about why this is happening, what they can do about it. Plus, we'll answer your mailbag questions and we'll preview tonight's game against Carolina. All that and more on today's Locked On Islanders podcast.
Your Locked On Islanders, your daily podcast on the New York Islanders. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
And welcome, everybody, to the Thursday edition of the Locked On Islanders podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. I want to thank everyone who makes Locked On Islanders your first listen every day. Don't forget to subscribe on YouTube or wherever you get your podcasts so you can get new episodes as soon as they drop. Today's episode is brought to you by Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONNHL for $20 off your first purchase. We have got a lot to get to on today's show. I got a lot of angry emails and texts and messages and comments after the Islanders Tuesday night collapse at the Rock in New Jersey. We're going to get to them. We're going to talk about what this team needs to do to end this trend. And yes, it is a trend. But first, if there's something Islanders related on your mind, if you have a question, a comment, maybe a topic that you'd like us to discuss on a future episode, feel free to send us an email. The email address, lockedonislanders@gmail.com. And if you leave your first name and where you're from, we're happy to mention you on the show when we discuss whatever's on your mind. You could also follow the show on Twitter at LockedOnIsles, and you could follow me, Gil Martin, on Twitter at Ice Wars, NYR, VSNYI. We'll keep you up to date on all things Islanders all season long. And I'm live tweeting during nearly every Islanders home and road game. So join me for some instant insight and analysis. And it's great to talk Islanders hockey with you, game time or anytime. Look, let's start where we have to start. Lane Lambert, a couple of weeks back, basically said he was concerned about the team's inability to hold on to leads late in games, but it wasn't a trend. Well, Lane, I hate to say it, Coach, it's a trend. The Islanders have now given up 9 game-winning goals in the third period or allowed a game to be tied and lost in overtime or a shootout. 9 times. The season is barely 20 games old. That's nearly half the games your team has played. They have blown 7 2-goal leads this season, and it's cost them 5 points in the standings. And Tuesday night against the Devils, they were up 4-2 heading into the third period and gave up 3 goals, including the game winner with 23 seconds left. Lane Lambert, obviously it's extremely concerning. We had the game under control. We have a power play and we take a penalty and then we take another stupid penalty. And all of a sudden, instead of being up 5-on-4, we're down 4-on-3 and they end up scoring. You know, we just made mistakes, but we have to be better. It's a problem. It's a problem because it keeps happening over and over again. And it shouldn't be. This is a veteran team. This is a team that absolutely should know how to hold a lead. And yet they don't. And just in the last month, since October 30th, the Islanders have blown leads of 2-0 in the third period. These are all third period blown leads. 2-0, 2-1, 3-1, 3-2, 3-2, 3-2, 4-3, 4-2, 4-3. Can't do it. Can't drop 5 points when you're holding a 2-goal lead. And I think the root of the problem is this. Lane Lambert has this team playing a more offensive-based system. And I understand it because this team is offensively challenged. They don't have even 3 first-line caliber players to put on their first line. This team, when they're hitting on all cylinders, is a middle of the road at best offensive team. This year, even with the team trying to get all this done, they're 29th in the NHL in goals scored. And that's with Lane Lambert telling the defenseman to pinch a little more. Here's the bottom line. In order to win, your best players have to be your best players. And who is the best player on the New York Islanders? Ilya Sorokin. This team needs to win hockey games by protecting their goalie and by getting those goals against back into the top 10. Right now, the Islanders are 17th in goals against and 29th in the league in goals scored. You can't do that when you're an offensively challenged team. You just don't have the horses to trade goals with good teams and beat them. And you know what? Here we are. We are 21 games into this season. The Islanders have 8 wins, 14 losses. 13 losses. 6 of those 13, you get the loser point. But you're 8-13 on the year. None of those 8 wins have come against playoff teams from last year. None. You're not going to beat good hockey teams by trying to outscore them with this roster. If you're the Edmonton Oilers, maybe. If you're the Boston Bruins, maybe. Right now, if you have elite scoring talent on your team, you can get away with trying to win the occasional 8-6, 7-5 kind of a game. But since this is not 1988, and Wayne Gretzky and the Oilers are not winning Stanley Cups by winning games 8-6, you need to play to the strengths of your team. And the strength of your team, in theory, is playing team defense. And, Ilya Sorokin not playing his A game right now. But you know what? For the season, his save percentage is still .913. He's just facing too many shots and too many quality shots. This team seems to go all out offensively to try to get the lead, gets the lead, and then forgets how to play defense, goes into a shell, can't clear the puck out of the zone, and the result is they give up goal after goal after goal. Play to your strengths. And if Lane Lambert can't figure out a way to change that dynamic and change it in a hurry, then either Lou Lamoriello is going to let Lane Lambert go, or a major trade is going to have to be made to shake up this roster. And keep in mind, you make a major trade, someone, because of the cap, someone is going out if someone is coming in. So if you want to bring in a quality NHL player, you're going to have to unload $5-6 million in cap space. How do you do that? Who's going to want to take Anders Lee right now? Or what can you get back for J.G. Pageau, who I'm thrilled finally got that first goal of the year in game number 21? Something has to change with this team. And missing Adam Pelech the last couple of years, we've seen how badly this team has struggled without Pelech. You need to double down. Last year, when did the Islanders start really winning hockey games? When they went back to a more conservative defensive system. Is it sexy and exciting? No. Does it make for great television? Ask the announcers at TNT. They'll tell you. But you know what? Fans want to see their team win. And I would rather see the Islanders win 2-1 than lose 5-4 like they did on Tuesday night. It can't go this way. This team needs to play to its strengths, and its strengths are back checking for the forwards, which they aren't doing enough, keeping it simple for the defensemen, and hopefully Mike Riley can begin to make a little headway there. But this team needs to be smarter in their own zone and play defense first and then cash in on opponents' mistakes to create offense. That's not what they've been doing. It's what they did under Barry Trotz. And if they don't start doing it, they're going to be in trouble because they can't hold the lead, and they've got to get their identity back. We have got a lot more to get to on today's show. Like I said, after the loss Tuesday night, a lot of emails, angry, frustrated emails. We'll get to a lot of those. Plus, we'll have our Islanders birthday of the day, a player who was with the Islanders in their first season all the way through till the 75-76 campaign, and actually had a 20-goal year for the Islanders in their second year. Let's see if you can guess who that is. All that and more on today's Locked On Islanders podcast. Today's episode is brought to you by Game Time. You shouldn't have to worry when you're buying tickets to your next big event. Game Time is the fast and easy way to buy tickets for all the sports, music, comedy, and theater events near you. They've got killer last-minute deals, all-in prices, and their best price guarantee, so Game Time takes the guesswork out of buying tickets. My favorite feature for Game Time is that you can go on the app and see the view from your seat before you purchase the tickets, so you know exactly what to expect when you arrive. And Game Time has deals on tickets right up to the start of the event, and even an hour after it starts. It is the place to find those last-minute seats. Take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. Just download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONNHL for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code LOCKEDONNHL for $20 off. Game Time. Download the Game Time app. Last minute tickets, lowest prices guaranteed. Locked On has launched the first ever national sports 24/7 streaming channel on YouTube. Locked On Sports Today is here for you 24/7, covering the top sports stories of the day with the local experts of Locked On, plus our national shows covering every league, including, of course, the NHL. Go to Locked On Sports Today on YouTube and subscribe to the first ever national sports 24/7 streaming channel. So, look, I get the fact that everybody's frustrated. I'm frustrated with this team too. And boy, have I gotten a lot of emails, and I'm going to try to get to them. This one was from before the game on Tuesday night, but it comes from Kevin, friend of the show, longtime listener and frequent emailer. And Kevin says, here's a question for your mailbag. In 20 years, how do you think we will remember Ilya Sorokin? Well, here's the deal. It depends. Right now, Ilya Sorokin has 8 years this year and 7 more years left on his contract. A lot can happen in that time. Assuming he stays healthy and continues to play at a high level, I think that a guy like Ilya Sorokin, and I'll use a baseball comparison and a New York Rangers comparison. He may go down a lot like Don Mattingly, where, yes, he is an all-time great Yankee, but he never won a championship. And what did he play in? One playoff series in his career before injuries cut him short. Now, the injury part hopefully will not apply to Sorokin. Or if you want to go Rangers, Henrik Lundqvist, or old school Eddie Giacomin. Both of them in the Hall of Fame. Both of them deserve to be in the Hall of Fame, but never won a championship in the NHL, never hoisted the cup. If the Islanders don't put a better team around Sorokin, I think that we will see him be a little bit more remembered as a great goalie who never had the good enough team around him to win a championship. I'm hoping that is not his fate. Next one comes from John. John says, I'm up early watching your podcast, and I've come to the point where I'm numb to this. No Islander fan should be frustrated for the simple fact that management never addressed or changed this team in the offseason like they were supposed to. The definition of insanity is expecting different results by doing the same thing over and over again. A nice start would be releasing Anders Lee. He has completely fallen off a cliff. Doesn't matter that he's the captain. So until the Islanders get a big turnover on their roster, hopefully within the next 2 to 3 years, there shouldn't be any expectation with this team. Look what happened to the Jets. GM Joe Douglas tried to force the issue by going back to Zach Wilson again, instead of going out and getting a legitimate backup quarterback. It's the same with Lou Lamoriello. He's giving Islander fans this same mediocre roster, and it's not working. John, I hear your frustration. And everydayers know throughout the offseason, you heard me talking about the need for this team to get younger, faster, and more skilled. They didn't do, well, okay, Julien Gauthier got them a little faster. But overall, this team is the same team. And they have been chasing the wild card spots in the Eastern Conference for the better part of the last 5 years. They've gotten in 4 times. They've gone on 2 pretty good runs. But this team is getting older. They're not necessarily getting better. And yeah, I think change does need to be made. So thank you very much for the email. The next one comes from Kevin in Calgary. Hi, Gil. Love the show. I only recently discovered the show, and I think you're doing a great job of covering our favorite team. I've been a diehard Islanders fan since 7-11 of overtime. And for those of you who may not know the reference, that's when Bobby Nystrom scored that first Stanley Cup winning goal, Game 6, 1980, against the Flyers. Kevin continues, I have some concerns and would love to hear your thoughts on these questions. What are your thoughts about the future of this team? I'm mainly concerned around the lack of picks the last few years, especially not having a first rounder for the last 5. They seem to be locked into these long-term contracts with players who are not producing for the price they're being paid, and that they should be. We've all heard about the lack of depth within the organization, and the cupboards are bare, so to speak. Where do they go from here? Will Lou be forced to buy out some contracts? If so, who do you think that could be? Will he decide to blow it up at some point? It seems like the last couple of seasons have been difficult for this team to make any headway, and if this continues, tough decisions will need to be made. Love to hear your thoughts, and thanks again for a great show. I listen every day. Kevin, thank you so much. Great to hear from a long-term Islanders fan in Calgary, of all places. And look, Kevin, yeah, there are problems. I have said I don't object to trading away a first-round pick, even 4 in a row, like Lou Lamoriello has done. But if you're trading away 4 in a row, you should be that close to a title where you're looking for the last 1 or 2 pieces to get over the hump, and that's not where this team is. So, yeah, he will, either he or his successor, if Lou decides to retire at some point, will have to blow it up. As far as buyouts, if Anders Lee doesn't pick things up for the rest of this season, I could see him being a buyout candidate or a trade candidate, but you'd have to eat a lot of salary. We've talked about J.G. Pageau being a possible trade candidate. I don't think they'll buy him out necessarily, but I think, a guy like that could have some trade value. Those, to me, are the 2 leading candidates as of right now. But to me, if this team doesn't make the playoffs this year, you have to start thinking about acquiring prospects and picks, trading away veterans, and it won't be a complete rebuild because with Ilya Sorokin and a lot of the players who you have on this roster, there is still room to play well. I mean, Sorokin will keep you in a lot of games that this team doesn't deserve to be in. So we'll see. But yeah, I think you're right. Change could be coming. The next one comes from Brad. He did not say where he was from, but hey, Gil, I love the podcast, watch every day. I've been an Islander fan since Clark Gillies was a Regina Pat. I saw him every game. I see my Isles this year, and I notice they are not having fun. Do you think if we brought back the Palmieri beard and the Martin mullet and let the boys have some freedom to play, that might help? We are a veteran team that knows how to play. Let them go for it. Thank you for what you do for our Isles in Canada. Keep up the beauty. All right. Well, thank you, Brad from Canada. It sounds like Alberta. Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't object to seeing Lou let the guys, grow a beard or get things going a little bit, but it's not going to happen, I don't think, under Lou. And I think, even though I disagree with Lou on this, I don't think that's the major problem. And I think if you start winning, you'll start to have fun. Fix the team on the ice, and I think the fun will be there. And I don't think that, once Lou Lamoriello steps aside, I think we will see some changes in the, haircut policy and the facial hair policy. Last question, and I know we're running a little behind schedule, but hey, Gil, I have a question. Why is it in so many games this season that the Islanders have given up a lead in the third period and the other team comes back and ties? I just hope they hang on to tie and at least get a point. What's this all about? Of course, I pull for them and I believe to the end, but I guess a point will always be better than no points. Penalties bite the Islanders again and again against the Devils. The Islanders played a solid game on Tuesday night, not to get rewarded for it. Appreciate you in the show. Listen every day. Let's go Islanders. Jeff, I talked about it in the first segment. I thank you for the email. Glad you enjoy the show and really appreciate you listening every day. Love my everydayers. But, it's a discipline thing. It's a style of play, as we said in the first segment. And again, I don't think Lane Lambert is the cause of the problem, but I don't think he has the solution. And something's got to change, whether it's the coach, the approach, or the roster. Something's got to change if this team can't figure things out. And let's hope they do it soon because, as the old cliche says, it gets late early. All right, we've got more to get to. We're going to preview tonight's game against the Carolina Hurricanes in Carolina. We'll talk about that and our Islanders' birthday of the day still to come on today's Locked On Islanders podcast. Today's episode is brought to you by eBay Motors. Passion, drive, and patience. What brings home the winning trophy is also what keeps your ride or die alive. eBay Motors has everything you need to maintain your vehicle and level it up to peak performance, from superchargers, roof racks, exhaust kits, LED headlights, and more. Whether you're into speed, power, or style, eBay Motors has got you covered. With over 122 million parts for your number one ride or die, you'll always find exactly what you're looking for. And with eBay Guaranteed Fit, your part is guaranteed to fit your ride every time or your money back. Because with eBay Motors, you're burning rubber, not cash. With all the parts you need at the prices you want, it's easy to turn your car into the MVP and bring home that win. Keep your ride or die alive at ebaymotors.com. Eligible items only. Exclusions apply. eBay Guaranteed Fit only available to U.S. customers. So tonight, Islanders, Carolina Hurricanes, 7:30 Eastern time. This game is on ESPN Plus. If you don't get ESPN Plus, don't forget, you can listen to the Islanders' hometown radio broadcast of this game on SiriusXM on the SXM app. Just do a search for Islanders. This is another big game. And you look at the standings. Hurricanes, 26 points. Islanders, 22 points. Both teams have played 21 games. You win this game, you're 2 points behind Carolina. You lose this game in regulation, and you are 6 points behind. Another one of those potential 4-point swings. And it's been an up and down kind of a season for the Carolina Hurricane. They are in second place right now, and they have been playing a lot better as of late after a slow start. They have now won 4 of their last 5, but the game they lost, they got blown out 8-2 by the Tampa Bay Lightning in Carolina. So go figure. But here's the deal. 9th in goals for, 20th in goals against. And Antti Raanta has struggled. He is 6-3 record-wise, but his goals against average is 3.47, and his save percentage is an ugly .854. Now, Peter Kochetkov has been playing better, the .265 goals against average, the .894 save percentage, but his record is 3-4. So they don't seem to play as well in front of him. Teuvo Teravainen leads the team with 10 goals. Sebastian Aho, 19 points. With the Islanders, Sebastian Aho is still injured. We will not have the Aho versus Aho matchup. But again, you've got a lot of talent on this team. Seth Jarvis, 9 goals, 18 points. Jesperi Kotkaniemi, 8 goals, 15 points. Even Brady Shea, the former Ranger, 3 goals, 14 points, off to a solid start. The special teams, middle of the pack on the power play. They're 13th, 21.1%. Islanders need to stay out of the box still because their penalty kill has been so dreadful. Carolina's penalty kill, 24th. They kill 75.4% of their chances. Islanders need to take advantage. The line combinations, Aho, Michael Bunting, and Seth Jarvis are the top trio. Kotkaniemi, Teravainen, and Martin Necas are the second line. Jordan Staal is the third line center with Jordan Martinook to his left, Jesper Fast to his right. And the fourth line from left to right, Brandon Lemieux, Jack Drury, and Stefan Nason. The defensive pairings, Jacob Slavin, always dangerous. Brent Burns, even more dangerous as the top pair. Brady Shea and Brett Pesce, the second pair. And Dmitry Orlov and Jalen Chatfield are the third pair. We mentioned the goalies. Kochetkov, who played in their last game, and Raanta. We'll see who we see, and we'll see whether or not the Islanders stick with Sorokin or go back to Semyon Varlamov. Going to be an interesting game. You want to get a win against the team that knocked you out of the playoffs last year, and you want that division 4-point swing. So a win in OT would be huge for the New York Islanders. Let's hope they can do it. Again, 7:30 tonight, and you can hear every minute of this game on the Islanders' hometown radio broadcast on SiriusXM, on the SXM app if you do a search for Islanders. Time now for our Islanders birthday of the day. And, well, we're a couple of days early on this one, but Saturday will be believe it or not, the 75th birthday of former Islanders center Ralph Stewart. Stewart, 6'1", 190 pounds, a native of Fort William, Ontario, made his NHL debut with the Vancouver Canucks in 1970-71 and joined the Islanders in 72-73. His best season, 73-74, 23 goals, 43 points. And he was a big part of the Islanders' run in 1975 to the Stanley Cup semifinals, had 3 goals and 6 points in 13 playoff games. After 75-76, he was off to Vancouver before hanging up his skates. He played in 252 NHL games, 57 goals, 130 points, and 28 penalty minutes. Add 19 playoff games, all of those with the Islanders, 4 goals, 8 points there. And he later became an assistant coach in a couple of senior leagues, but never in the NHL. His best game as an Islander, how about December 22nd, 1973 at the St. Louis Arena, Islanders and Blues. Jerry Desjardins, the Islanders goalie, Wayne Stevenson, the netminder for the Blues. And in this game, well, this was the only career hat trick for Ralph Stewart. He scored twice in the second period, added a shorthanded goal in the third period, And the Islanders ended up beating the Blues by a score of 4-2, 31 saves for Desjardins. And believe it or not, Ralph Stewart, the only player in this game with a multiple point game. He got the 3 goals on 8 shots. He had 8 of the team's 32 shots. Ed Westfall had 4. Nobody else had 4 or more. So Ralph Stewart, one of those career minor leaguers who thrived with the expansion Islanders in their second and third year especially, he is our Islanders birthday of the day. I want to thank everyone for making Locked On Islanders your first listen every day. Everydayers, tomorrow on the show, we will have our key takeaways from tonight's game against Carolina, and we will preview Saturday's game in Florida against the Panthers. So make sure you join us for that. Until then, have a great day, everybody. Stay safe. And of course, let's go Islanders.